you ever watch the Formula One, now
Oh,
that's
good stuff.
now
Love
that's
it.
that is the best stakeholder management you're ever going to get, because what that says is that by the time the car gets there, the need's already known, and it's just about the execution. Okay, so the car gets there, and in 3 seconds, whatever else, and okay, they don't refuel anymore, but they change the tires, and you're gone. Okay, because the only
Yeah.
purpose of you being there is to win the race. Okay, so that's the only purpose.
Yeah.
So therefore, the pit lane have made it their responsibility to understand the needs before the car comes. But sometimes in procurement terms, you can envisage this comedy scene where the Formula One car lands in the pits, stops, and the guys say, "What fuel would you like?" "Diesel." "Ah, we don't have that. You're gonna have to wait." "Okay, tell me about the tires." "I need Goodyear tires." "Okay, wait 5 minutes. We'll go and ask someone who's got it." Come back. There you go. They'll fulfill the need, but you've lost the race.
Thanks so much for joining another edition of The Never-Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. Today, we are joined by Sam Achampong, and he is a global procurement leader, absolutely passionate about making sure procurement teams are the destination for people that need to get stuff done, and not like your local planning permission. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for inviting me. Really excited.
So this whole planning permission contrast really hit home for you several years ago as you were going from living in the UK and you transited through Dubai and were really struck. Tell me more about this because there's a contrast there that's so powerful.
Yeah, I was transiting through Dubai from Australia actually. So I'd gone from the UK to Australia. On my way back, stopped in Dubai for a 4-day layover to get over the jet lag, and yeah, I was in a taxi going down here in Dubai, Sheikh Zayed Road, which is the big kind of 16-lane highway that we have out here, and there was just so much construction going on. They were building lots of stuff, and a lot of stuff had already been built. And I was just intrigued. I said to the taxi driver, what's going on? How are they building things so fast? And he looked a bit surprised, and he didn't really understand my question. So I said, look, where I'm from in London, if you're gonna do this kind of stuff, you can do it, but it's going to take some consideration. It's going to take some time. It's going to take you a period of time in planning permission. It's going to take you a period of time in consultation, in case you're blocking the view of any existing buildings. That alone is going to take you some time. So how do you do that? And he kind of looked at me surprised and said, "Well, no. Out here, if the Sheikh says you can do it, you can do it." And so I kind of left that cab ride with this a little bit of blue sky thinking, and a few of these barriers in procedures crushed around me, and I went back to the UK with feeling a little bit more relieved of my mental blocks in certain thinking circles, and made the play to say I may want to come out here. And 3 months later, in 2008, I moved out here, and I've been here ever since.
I love it. This idea of letting go of those things that were holding us back, those beliefs of, well, this is the way it is, so this is the way it must be, suddenly comes off and this world of possibility opens up. This contrast of dealing with a planning permission where you need to file 17 forms and pay all of these fees and go through committees and procedures and stand in a queue and wait for a grumpy person at the end who knows that you've got to go through them, and they'll take their sweet time, thank you, because their coffee break starts in 12 minutes. And then they'll make you wait while they go on coffee break. Like that whole mentality is still there in parts of business. And it's one of the things that I know procurement has, as a general theme, is shaking off and working really hard to remove that association. But it's also a contrast of what you've discovered good can look like. Can you share more about that? Because it's the opposite of the lengthy committee procedure, TPS report, planning permission group, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that if there's one thing that procurement needs to shake off, it's that tag where procurement is the blocker, where everyone who wants to do things of any level of innovation, they draw a deep breath and think, okay, we've done all the stuff we need to do. We forgot. Now we have to put it through procurement. Now, I mean, there are some considerations around their own planning to go into, but let's not go into that at the moment. But the reality is that the perception is, and the reality is that people are reluctant to go down that route, and I guess because they don't see the value. And they just think it's a blocker. So it's similar to the planning permission analogy, where what is the point in doing that? We're going to be innovative, we're going to have a good result. So why are we going through this whole process? But I've always said, look, it's interesting. And you do have, I guess, two types of procurement departments. You have procurement departments that are mandated in an organization and those that are not mandated. So within organization A, you want to do anything above a certain spend, it has to go through procurement. The time it goes through procurement isn't mandated, by the way, but ultimately at some point it has to have gone through procurement,
Yeah.
which is in itself a problem. And then you have the organizations that maybe procurement isn't mandated. And the interesting thing I found going round is that organizations where procurement is not mandated, procurement is more than often utilized. So those stakeholders, those budget holders who have autonomy to spend, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. They don't have to go through procurement; it's their budget. You find it in some of these organisations they voluntarily do, and I guess it's because in those organisations, yes, they have procurement where there is a real value add that can be quantified, and therefore they see them as trusted partners. Now, it may not be a straight consequence of organizations where it's mandated and where it's not mandated. It may just be that we're talking about some innovative, high performing organizations who also don't feel the need to spoon feed their teams and tell them what to do. Like you have to go to procurement, but they are successful organizations, so they do anyway. That may well be the consequence. But what I'm saying is that procurement does need to prove its value. And I personally prefer when the value is obvious than when it's force fed. Similar to this gatekeeper that you mentioned at the end of the planning permission queue, who I guess feels empowered because they're able to do that, and therefore maybe takes advantage of that position.
Yeah, I think about that attitude as not empowered, but rather, running their own little tiny fascist regime inside the organization and blocking whatever they can block. It's really awful when we think about the attitude that goes with the "you gotta go through me, so you better be nice," as opposed to the "hey, let's go figure this out together." And that I see that as the fundamental difference between the teams that get lost in the checklist for the checklist's sake and the teams that don't let the checklist get in the way of the point of the checklist, right? It's that ability to see the forest for the trees. It feels like night and day when I know myself or our team or others that we know have needed to work with and through those different types of people. And they're completely different people. I don't know too many people that enjoy working with the checklist for checklist's sake. And I don't know too many people, I certainly don't hang out with people who would do that job. It's just, I think that would be soul crushing. And then the people who just want to make a difference, let's go, let's figure it out, let's make it better. That's worlds apart from an attitude perspective. But then this gets built in over time based on, I mean, there's a quote that every rule in HR, procurement, and finance has a story behind it. And there's truth in this, right? There's policies that are there or mandates that are there because something happened. But sometimes the overcorrection, if you go all the way to the Department of Redundancy department, this is unhelpful. So, and you don't want full anarchy. So what's that middle look like where there is support, encouragement, and accountability to go do it well? But this comes from an attitude, and it comes from sometimes this idea of what came to pass or the way things always were and the sense of legacy. You were talking about how you've seen legacy overcome and sandboxes used to go and break through some of these things.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't let legacy kind of cloud your innovation. I think that's really where we're coming from because going back to the start of your conversation about the checkbox guy or the checkbox girl or the checkbox person, I think we've got to be very careful. I mean, I'm a procurement guy. I'm a procurement nerd. I'll speak to you about procurement all day long. If you want to talk category management or segmentation, I'll do that all day long. But don't you dare start having those conversations once we come out of our procurement box, because no one cares, nor should they care. They're not in the
Yeah.
mildest bit interested. It's not interesting. It may be interesting to us, and so therefore,
Yeah.
we only ever need to speak the language of the business. So we don't want to go in front of anyone whose eyes will glaze over because we're saying we're going to do a supply rationalization. All right, we got to quantify what that means, because cutting down your number of suppliers just means you're cutting down the number of your suppliers, and that's all it means. So you got to explain why you're doing that, if indeed it makes sense. In the same way that getting three quotations does not mean you're saving money; it means you're getting three quotations, and that's all it means. So you kind of need to quantify what you're doing in the language of the business. So that's one of the hits that we sometimes fall into when we're trying to put across what we think makes sense, because we're tick boxing, but we got to put in the language of the business, because procurement is not a process. Yeah, it never is a process. To do procurement does not mean you have to do an RFP. That's just one tool that you can
Yep.
use, or an e-auction. You don't need to segment your suppliers. These are tools that you use to get the best outcome in the particular scenario. But you need to relate it to the business. So if you're looking to get additional value out of your suppliers, yes, you may well segment them, or you may employ better supplier relationship management, and yeah, you may segment it to your top suppliers or your critical suppliers, and not to the suppliers of your pens and pencils. But these are all little tools that you use, but never ever just use a blank statement, because you have to quantify it at the end of the cycle and say why you did it and what was the effect on the business. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and your business's time, and they don't want to be mandated to come to you if that's your attitude.
100%. And I mean, CEOs don't care about procurement for procurement's sake. They care about growing EBITDA, growing, meeting company objectives, meeting company strategies, aligning to company strategies. And this language of the business is so important. It seems like both of us have come across this book, Love Languages, and I know you've taken it that next step. I think this could be your next book, is Love Languages for Procurement. Can you unpack that for us?
I think love language of procurement, or love language of stakeholder management, whatever it is. I think we need to get some copyright lawyers in here so we can get it trademarked immediately, because I think there are lessons to learn, and I guess the analogy is this. So if you're in procurement, you have different stakeholders. Okay, and you need to, and they have a different hierarchy of needs. So yes, you've got your marketing guys, and you've got your facilities management guys, your finance guys, you got your HR guys, your legal guys, and they're all your stakeholders, and they all need different things. They all need to save money. They need I don't know, speed to market, let's say, and they need compliance, let's just say. But we just got to remember that they need them in different orders, and they're going to react to you very differently. You can tell I've read the Love Languages book, so there you go. They're going to react to you very differently depending on how you deliver their needs. They want all of those needs, but in different orders. So, good luck going to your marketing stakeholder and telling them how you've saved $100 million, but they have got less suppliers because you decide to segment your suppliers, and it took them 3 months to go to market, and actually the window of opportunity to launch their marketing campaign is gone, and therefore the organization is going to gain less revenue. They're not interested in that saving you've made, because yes, they do want to get a supply for good value, but their number one love language was speed to market. So
Yeah.
do that first, and then all the other things become relevant. And I think that's what we lose as procurement. We have this one love language. We approach everyone the same. We assume we don't have the adult conversation, with our stakeholders, to understand what they need and in what order. Because I think, the best analogy around stakeholder management, anyway, outside of procurement or whatever else, is if anybody ever watches the car racing, the Formula One. If you ever watch the Formula One, now
Oh, those
that's
good stuffs.
now
Love
that's
it.
that is the best stakeholder management you're ever going to get, because what that says is that by the time the car gets there, the needs are already known, and it's just about the execution. Okay, so the car gets there, and in 3 seconds, whatever else, and okay, they don't refuel anymore, but they change the tires, and you're gone. Okay, because
Yeah.
the only purpose of you being there is to win the race. Okay, so that's the only
Yeah.
purpose. So therefore, the pit lane have made it their responsibility to understand the needs before the car comes. But in sometimes in procurement terms, you can envisage this comedy scene where the Formula One car lands in the pits, stops, and the guys say, "What fuel would you like?" Diesel. Ah, we don't have that. You're gonna have to wait. Okay. Tell me about the tires. I need Goodyear tires. Okay, wait 5 minutes. We'll go and ask someone who's got it. Come back. There you go. They'll fulfill the need, but you've lost the race. Okay, there's no
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. Would you please
Yeah,
fill out this
yeah,
form in
there
triplicate?
you go. And there's no point because there's no point in doing that because the only requirement is to win the race. You can't blame the pit guys. Okay, and the pit guys can't blame you. They can't say, "Well, you should have told me." No, no, you should have found out what they need because the only requirement in being in the race is to win. So procurement should take the responsibility. And I've had a good example of this actually. I used to work for an organization that used to own a number of malls around the region. And there was this, when I took over the role, there was this discussion between the marketing team and the procurement team. And it was around the holy month of Ramadan, because during the holy month of Ramadan, the malls are decorated to a large extent, similar to Christmas when you do Christmas decorations, and it's very, very costly. And so the argument between the two teams was that the marketing team was saying, look, every year we come to you guys and we need a supplier to decorate the malls. And every year you tell us it's going to take 3 months. So every year we single source. Okay. So I kind of said to the procurement team, well, okay, well, whose fault do you think it is? And obviously the procurement team says the marketing team, and the marketing team said the procurement team. So I said, well, hold on. Okay, let me just address the procurement team here. Ramadan is going to happen. Okay. And to be fair, it's not like Christmas. The dates do change every year, right? Okay.
But it typically
Yeah.
happens every
Yeah.
year.
But it's going to happen, right? And you know that at the beginning of the year. Okay. And you know for a fact that the marketing team are preparing for it. They don't just come out with something. So if they don't come to you, you go to them. You get in their face because your only KPI is to get commercial value. Their KPI is to make the place look nice, and the place will look nice, and they will fulfill their KPIs. But you will single source, right? So it's your responsibility to actually proactively, in this case, get in their face because they are going to come to you with that request. So sometimes it's not enough to hide behind, well, I didn't have that request. You have to anticipate the demand because that's your KPI. And if the outcome was that you didn't win the race, then you didn't win the race. It's black and white.
Yeah. If the analogy of if the other department didn't fill out a special form or something like that, that it's somehow not on your radar or not somehow associated with your objectives or your KPIs, is the attitude creeping in of, well, you can wait in line and you will now serving number 38, right? So I think this is a great example of those behaviors and attitudes that we can all watch for and guard against in helping make sure that supply chains get stronger and stronger. Because if something is needed and that part was ignored because somebody didn't fill out a form, well, if we knew it was going to be needed, because it's needed every year, then it's not only the other guy's fault. How that opportunity to look in the mirror and think about how did we contribute to this is a powerful, powerful indicator of where those next steps that we need to take to make it better together. It's incredible. Sam, I'm really grateful for you for taking the time to share your experience, your wisdom, your story. And to all of you watching, this has been another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. See you next week.
So yeah.